You won't believe this happened or want to. Robert De Niro's stunt outside the Trump trial in Manhattan is blown up in his face after he was stripped of a planned award at the Celebration of Service to America due to be held in just the next week. And you know what he's doing? Robert De Niro's needless rant outside the trial last week has revealed the actor as more than just a disgruntled citizen, but an important media arm of the Biden campaign. That's because the initial press conference by De Niro that started it all was actually organized by the Biden campaign before supporters of Donald Trump turned up, leading to a fiery clash. Watch some of those scenes before I tell you more about the backlash he's receiving.
You're not going to intimidate. That's what Trump does, to try to intimidate. We have to fight back. We're trying to do a little fuck. We're trying to be gentlemen in this world. The Democrats. You are gangsters. You are gangsters. Fuck you.
You're a softie! You're a nobody! You're movie soft! You're trash! Robert De Niro, what's on the shit? I love you, taxi driver!
When you see the ruckus that was created and the very clear expletives changed, you start to see that the organizers of the awards at National Association of Broadcasters called it a distraction that Robert De Niro would pull something like this out of nowhere. By the way, do subscribe for more discussions like this. I think it's also because the organization tries to remain politically neutral when deciding who to award for their service to the country in the media space, which meant that Robert De Niro had practically shot himself in the foot by coming out as maybe the second most polarizing individual in New York that day. That's just a small expletive of how the Oscar-winning actor lost a lot of his reputation, not just with the political side he's ranting against, but also just people overall that find this kind of over-the-top political tirade distasteful. Unfortunately for him, this is undoing a lifetime's worth of bipartisan respect that he has established in the movie business, especially after he decided to say such strong political opinions out of absolutely nowhere in his 80s. During the press conference itself that was organized by the Biden campaign, there were moments that were just on the edge of becoming heated, signaling where Robert De Niro's presence was going to eventually lead. After he called Trump supporters lowlives, this interaction with a person in a MAGA hat, it's a perfect example of that.
They stood and put their lives on the line for these lowlives, for Trump.
They lied under oath.
They lied under oath. Who lied under oath? What are you telling me? They're traitors. You gotta. I don't even know how to deal with you, my friend. I don't even know how to deal with you. They stood there. They didn't have to. And there were other ones in there who probably were in with them a little bit too, and they found a way to get around. Not these guys. They stood there and fought for us, for you.
There's almost a needlessly bitter tone that can occasionally envelop Robert De Niro, which is enough to throw off a lot of people from taking someone like him seriously, and that's unfortunate. Robert, in the last few years, especially after the 2020 elections, has started to define himself in two directions in the political arena. One is his stringent and outspoken criticism of Donald Trump to the point that it has almost become his new claim to fame. Secondly, it's his apparent reverence for the Biden administration, where he sometimes starts to sound like a walking advert for them. He remarked that he was, quote, finally sleeping well at night after Biden won the 2020 election, and that's interesting because there's still a large contingent of people that don't see one political side meeting the same standards they hold for the other. And eventually they end up supporting neither, but whoever's running the Biden campaign's media and public relations, they've certainly seen how useful someone like De Niro can be bolstering their public image and outreach. In fact, they just released a Trump-bashing political ad campaign called Snapped that is voiced by Robert De Niro, trying to make the case that Donald Trump has snapped into becoming a political pariah seeking blind vengeance. That's the kind of scaremongering that's going on, and Robert is clearly more than happy to be a part of it. In fact, that's not even new, because he was also part of an ad campaign called Vote Your Future back before the 2016 election, where he had more than a few words to say about Donald Trump.
I mean, he's so blatantly stupid. He's a dog, he's a pig, he's a con, a artist, a mutt who doesn't know what he's talking about, doesn't do his homework, doesn't care, thinks he's gaming society, doesn't pay his taxes. He's an idiot. Colin Powell said it best. He's a national disaster. He's an embarrassment to this country. It makes me so angry that this country has gotten to this point, that this fool, this bozo, has wound up where he has. He talks how he wants to punch people in the face. Well, I'd like to punch him in the face.
look at that in totality and you start to realize why organizations or awards may want to distance themselves from a character like this. It's not the political opinions per se, but the insistent and deliberate need to shout them down at the wrong place and wrong time to the point that it becomes unnecessarily provocative. If you're wondering how Donald Trump himself has reacted to this, he's actually only responded to him directly a couple of times. He had this to say about him in a tweet back in 2018. And I quote, "Robert De Niro, a very low IQ individual, has received too many shots to the head by real boxers in movies." That one was harsh. It's clear that even for Donald Trump himself, Robert De Niro turning up outside the courthouse for no good reason meant that he could not let that go unresponded, and that's what he did when he spoke to the media soon after the verdict, calling Robert De Niro a broken down fool in probably the first time he's punched back at him outside of social media.
And then they have a protest of Robert De Niro yesterday as a fool. He's a broken down fool standing out there, and he got maggot. He got maggot yesterday. He got a big dose of it.
Both Donald Trump and Robert De Niro have never really had such a disdain for one another as we see now, despite the fact that they've likely crossed paths with each other, being active in the New York social scene for decades. It's reported that Robert De Niro was even present at the opening of the Trump Tower all the way back in 1983. But to bring you back to today, it's clear that Robert De Niro has decided to become one of the loudest and most politically partisan voices out of Hollywood. He's rivaled by almost nobody on either end of the political spectrum in how brash he is in his criticism. Maybe it's that tone and tenor that is finally inviting Donald Trump as well as his family and legal team to respond to Robert De Niro, and that signals that his attempts to disrupt trials and give interviews against Trump are being seen as a problem for the Trump campaign. Here's what Trump Jr. had to say about Robert De Niro soon after the verdict was announced.
They bring in Robert De Niro, who was shot down, but apparently he needs attention because it's been a while since he's cranked out a good movie. But think about it. They bring out one actor. Remember in 2020 when every A-list actor in the world showed up for Joe Biden, they lined up one by one? Now they get one person. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson disavowed, said, hey, listen, I regret voting for him. Cardi B, all the people that lined up behind Joe Biden understand that he has failed our country, he has failed the citizens of this nation, frankly, he has failed the world.
He's kind of right. I think a lot of people can attest to the fact that Robert De Niro's political antics don't serve to enlighten the conversation or make a genuine effort to understand it. Instead, it turns politics into a dirty battleground where you're fighting on behalf of your team. It's not the level of approach that benefits an extremely celebrated individual in his field like Robert De Niro, and perhaps people have expected a higher caliber of political discourse from him. Right now, those fiery tirades from Robert are only getting sucked into a larger vortex of political rage that's enveloping both sides. What's needed is for some cooler heads to prevail that can turn down the heat. Unfortunately, Robert De Niro is not one of them.